didn't really know what to expect going into Wanderstop. I tried to keep my expectations in check, which, to be honest, was a little difficult. After all, this is Davey Wreden's new game, the same mind behind the Stanley Parable and the Beginner's Guide. Those two are not just some of the most unique games I've ever played, but genuinely some of the most memorable experiences I've had in all my years of gaming. But I didn't want to expect the same thing from him again. I think it's important to give creators room to grow, to experiment with different ideas, and to change over time. And in Wreden's case, that change was deeply personal. After developing the Stanley Parable and the Beginner's Guide, he spoke openly about feeling burnt out. Those games had taken an immense emotional toll on him. He had poured so much of himself into his work that when it was all over, he found himself completely drained. He wanted to make something different this time, a cozy game that reflected his own struggles with slowing down and learning to rest. And you can feel that in Wanderstop. Wreden's personal journey is woven into the fabric of this game. Alta, the main character, is burned out in the same way Wreden was. She spent years defining herself by her ability to push forward, to fight, to never stop. And now she's forced to confront something she doesn't know how to deal with, the idea of stopping. In many ways, Wanderstop isn't just a game about a fighter running a tea shop. It's a game about Wreden himself. His exhaustion, his frustration, his slow acceptance of rest, it's all there, written into every moment. And that's what gives the game its soul. So I went in trying to expect nothing. All I really knew was that Wanderstop was a cozy game where you play as an ex-fighter running a tea shop. And if you're watching this because you're a fan of Wreden's past work and are expecting something along the same lines, I have one piece of advice for you. Reset your expectations and just enjoy the game. Yes, this is a cozy game, but that doesn't mean it isn't deeply written. I want to emphasize that up front because I know a lot of people will look at Wanderstop and think, oh, it's just a silly cozy game, but there is so much more to it than that. So let's start from the beginning. This video will be completely spoiler free. I won't be revealing any major plot points or twists, just my experience with the game and why I think it's something special. In Wanderstop, we play as Alta, an ex-fighter who hasn't lost a fight in 3.5 years, but now suddenly she's lost multiple fights in a row. Desperate to improve, she embarks on a journey into a forest, seeking a swordmaster who can help her sharpen her skills and regain her strength. But as she ventures deeper into the forest, exhaustion starts to weigh her down. Eventually, she finds herself unable to even carry her sword. Still, she pushes forward, forcing herself to keep going step after step until she physically can't anymore. And she passes out. When she wakes up, she's in a beautiful clearing, sitting on a bench with a stranger named Boro. He tells her she should rest for a while, recover her strength before continuing her journey. But Alta is stubborn. She refuses to waste any time. She insists on leaving. She forces herself to push forward. And then she passes out again. Boro is there when she wakes up, once more telling her she needs to take a break, to breathe, to give herself time to recover. And this time she has no choice but to listen. So she stays. And she starts working at the Wanderstop tea shop. But she hates it. And that's what sets the game apart from the many other cozy games. Alta feels real. She doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to rest. And for the first chunk of the game, you really feel that resistance. But as time goes by, as she brews tea, as she talks to customers and explores the gardens, something starts to change. We, as Alta, begin to connect with the tea shop and the world around it. One of the things that struck me immediately about Wanderstop was the writing. It's incredibly strong, and every line of dialogue feels thoughtful, purposeful, and deeply human. Every conversation, every interaction carries weight. The game takes its time, allowing the player to sit with the characters and fully absorb their emotions. There is no rush to get from one moment to the next. The game gives you space to breathe. And it's in these quiet moments that Wanderstop truly shines. You can make tea for customers, fulfilling their special requests and learning more about them in the process. But you can also just sit. You can brew a cup of tea for yourself, walk over to a quiet quiet spot and reflect on your memories. The game wants you to slow down. It encourages you to pause, to take in the environment, to exist in the world rather than simply rushing through it. There's a whimsical charm to everything in Wanderstop. The tea brewing process, for example, takes place in this massive, almost industrial-looking machine. When Alta asks Boro why it has to be so complicated, he simply replies, because it's fun. And that's kind of the whole philosophy of the game. Things don't need to be optimized, simplified, or rushed through. They can just be. The game is full of little details that make it feel alive. There are tiny creatures called Pluffkins that roam around the tea shop's garden. The jukebox constantly breaks down, playing music that blends in strange, unexpected sounds like cat purring, phone ringing, and even horse neighing. Somehow, despite how bizarre it all sounds, it fits perfectly with the game's atmosphere. Every detail feels intentional, like it was placed there with love and care. And that's something I really appreciate about Wanderstop. You can tell it wasn't just made as another cozy game to throw into the genre. It has a distinct voice, a unique tone, and a story that isn't afraid to go to some difficult places. I won't say too much about the story itself, but I will say this. Wanderstop isn't just about running a tea shop. It's about burnout. It's about pushing yourself too hard to the point where you don't know how to stop. It's about what happens when your entire sense of self is built around the idea of progress, of always improving, always moving forward, and then suddenly you can't anymore. And that hit me hard. It's not often that cozy games tackle themes like this, and it's even rarer for them to do so in such a deeply personal way. Wanderstop is a game that truly understands what it feels like to be stuck in that mindset. And through Alta's journey, it gently encourages the player to reflect on their own relationship with rest, with productivity, and with the idea of enough. The game isn't an endless sandbox type of game. It has a beginning and an ending, but you can choose not to end the game and just hang out in this beautiful world for as long as you wish, if that's something you care about. By the time the credits rolled, I felt like a changed person. This game managed to hit me like all his other games did. So if you're a fan of Davey Wreden's past work, or if you simply just love cozy games and are looking for a unique one, I would highly recommend Wanderstop. It's an experience that will stay with me for a long time, and I think it has the potential to resonate with a lot of people. Thank you so much to Ivy Road for sending me an early review copy so I could make this video, and of course for pouring all their love into this game.